for the camera. Just be yourselves, okay?
Yeah, all you need to do is be relaxed and talk to the kids. That's really what you're doing.
I'm worried about this poor little girl holding this heavy mic. It's about 20 pounds.
Don't worry. She's getting paid.
Yeah, oh, yeah. She's younger than we are, right?
Okay, we're rolling.
Hi guys, I'm so glad to be here today and to be alive. I look at you, it brings back memories, because it's when I was your age that I went into the military, the Army Air Corps, and it was a tough to getting through it and to getting this wing which we pride. But the most important time in my life in the military was in combat. I was in Air Sea Rescue, flew a B-17. I was the airplane commander. That's the one that sits on the left-hand side, and so you command the whole crew yourself, which was a heavy responsibility for a 20-year-old. And I saw the atomic bomb dropped, and the thing that I brought out of the war was a hate for violence. So many of my friends, and those that I didn't know, were destroyed right in front of my eyes. And though there's the joy of being here now, I look at these pictures, and I am moved back to that time. And so my heart aches for those that are gone. But I'm glad to be here with those that understand. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Blair. I too went in the service when I was about 20 years old. I was actually a freshman in the University of Nevada in Reno at the time I signed to join the Air Force. I was about to be drafted. So when the Ground Army I was fly. Did most of my training down here in Southern California. And ended up actually as a co-pilot on a B-24 Liberator. And our crew got our crew training not far from here, right out at Muroc Army Air Base, which is now Edwards Air Force Base, Longwood X. And we went overseas from there. And again, I was on the right seat, co-pilot. 40 missions, the 13th Air Force, 5th Bomber. Fortunately enough to come home a couple of those weeks. I got some good pictures here that hand out that I have up in my hand up and every one of them. And when I came back, I could have got out on brownie points, but I elected to stay in for the duration. And my wife and I just got married. I wanted to do a little traveling under the fence. So they sent me to Big Spring, Texas, the Bombardier Training School, where I flew the Twin Angel Beechcraft PT-11 trainer. And that's probably what sparked an early interest in Northern Bomb Sight for me all as pilots. After we checked out in the aircraft, we also did a course in the Northern Bomb Sight, famous Northern Bomb Sight, which was almost as secret as the atomic bomb. And I thought I'd sample one of those here and actually have a set up here where we can demonstrate how it works. I'll talk to you later, but we can show you the bomb sight.
Hi, I'm Roy Test. I went into the Army Air Corps when I was 21. I had just had my 21st birthday when I was sworn in to be in the Army as an aviation cadet. I took all my training in the Midwest. Eventually ended up as a co-pilot on a B-17. I flew 32 missions with the 398 bomb group. We had the triangle W identification on our tail. I flew those 32 missions in 19...
Good morning, I'm Carl Barnes. I was with the 8th Air Force. I flew 35 missions over Germany and lost 3 airplanes during the 35 missions. And I received the Air Medal 7 times, and we had DGO ribbon with 5 clusters, which meant 5 major battles that we flew in. And after I came back from there, I flew in Scottsdale, Illinois, training radio students on C-47s. And then during the Korean War, I ended up flying C-46s, hauling supplies from Japan into Korea. So after I got out of the service, I was out at Edwards, and I retired from Edwards from NASA. With all the new airplanes, Edwards is a great place to work. So you see everything new that comes there for testing. And I had a great life experience, and it's all been with airplanes. Now, thank you.
I'm Florville Reed. My name is Smith. Of course, when I went into the service, I went in and graduated from high school in 42, and I saw a ad for Jacqueline Cochran had advertised for women who had 35 hours and could come and join the Air Force. And Pat Arnold had asked her to set up a group to take the plane so we could ferry and tow targets and do that sort of thing, so the men could go overseas, because at that particular time in the war, it was not the Allies were losing, and so he was expecting more men to be able to fly. But however, that turned soon after our school had started, and we were disbanded in December of 44. Oh, and I flew B-26s on for tow targets out of Harlingen Air Force Base in Harlingen, Texas, and then worked for Victoria, Texas out of operations using an AT-6 to fly non-flying officers wherever they needed to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, I think he knows. Do we need to get him up in the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to, we get on training now? Just much the same as what we
Chris,
do.
Chris, we could get him to the English. Yeah. Roll it anyway for sound.
Ed Brown. I was a gunner on B-17. It's a vulture. I was I flew 34 missions as a gunner on vulture. It's different than any other device and I had to feed into. It's something that I can't remember what I'd like to remember. But it was something. I lost a brother, and I was too young to enter the service at this time. But just as soon as I turned 18 years old, I began to I went after the Air Force, hoping to be used as a fighter. I was used as a fighter, but not as I would like to have had it.
Okay, right. My left.
I decided that I would much rather just let them assign me wherever they wanted me to go. I didn't know where I wanted to go at that time. It's, and I wanted to get back on Germany because my brother. And I couldn't go into the service at that time because I was not old enough. The minute I did finally reach that time, I joined the service, and my mother had to sign a paper that says it's all right for me to do it. And it took a little while for him. I got into the service. I applied for to get an airplane so I could be someone real big in my mind. I wanted to get back on, as I say, get back on Germany because of my brother. We ended up with ended up by flying, but someone else did the driving, and we flew, and I was sitting in a ball down under the airplane, B-17. That was my area, and it's something that it's difficult. That I went hoping that I would be a pilot, but I think maybe they saw that I was younger than most, and ultimately I did get in and I flew, but I flew as a passenger down under the airplane, and it's an area that it was no fun. But it was something that I was doing halfway at least what I wanted to do, and I was flying in a strange position, and one time, one of the times that I felt what I wanted to feel, and that was that I was able to know, and I could in my mind I could always think of what, and when I did that, then to ride in the vulture gave me a feeling, and it was something that there's nothing really that would be something that if you'd think that whatever movement you made, that it was important. It was that way. I know that, but I didn't know it. I didn't know what I was doing at the very beginning, and it was after I had been in and flew for some time, I began to understand and feel what I was doing. It's something that I had felt that I had never felt before. And I got to kind of thinking every time we dropped a bomb, every time I shot the gun, I had a feeling that Bud was with me.
You have questions that
Ms. Goodrow gave us these questions. These were sample questions we had from last year.
Hundreds of miles on that one engine. And on any plane, the most difficult and most fearful position was the ball turret. You're all by yourself. You could always see that when you got shot down, that's where you were going to go because you're low there. The fighters came up from underneath to get that ball turret because he was the only thing and the only one that was shooting the planes and protecting the planes from underneath. Every position on a B-17 or 29 or B-24 was a fearful position. And B-17 was a wonder to fly. But when you got into combat and people were shooting at you and wanted to kill you and were ruthless, that then the fun was gone out of it. And I flew over the Pacific air sea rescue, and not many people, even pilots, a reunion. You never told us about what you went through, and I think most of us didn't. So it was laid upon my heart. The Lord laid it upon my heart to write a book, and I brought them back here for you today, so that you may sit down and you can read through from the very start of 18 years old, and all these men went through the training, pilot training, and it was intense. But it tells at least a dozen times when, in a miraculous way, like there was 13 Japanese planes jumping us, that the Lord saw us through that time, just as clear as could be. I wrote them down to give him all the credit and the thanks for getting me through. And so I just want you, each one to have it, and so they're back there, and I won't have time because I'll have to slip out pretty soon. And the old man go over and see that.
Bill, you want me to take them out there and just stack them up?
Yeah, later. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Well, that obviously is now.
How you doing, Greg? Good angle? No, now, craft services is 12:30. I got something.
Yes, there is. Good. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Oh, we just have a cameraman who turned off.
All right.
Is that okay?
Oh, Bill, it's my Amex.
Right. RAF, for those of you that don't know, that is Royal Air Force. He is, as you will soon find by the sound of his voice, not from Lancaster. This is the aircraft that he was in, a British aircraft. I'll let him take him there. He was a navigator and bomb aimer, they call them there. We call them bombardiers. They, for some silly reason, call them bomb aimers. But they were first, so we had to give it to them. In a B-17, Ken's position would be right behind Al's position here. As the bombardier is sitting here, the navigator would be right back here. So not much more protection from the front of him than that plexiglass, but he's back here with a table and he's navigating that aircraft, doing astral navigation so they can get to the right place at the right time. And he could also operate, there are guns on the side here that he was required to operate and did on many occasions. So the navigator here sits here on the B-17. Ken?
On our aircraft, it's a little bit different. This is a Halifax at Wilmington, and it's the Mark III, has the radial engines on it. twin tails, rather like the B-24. And we carried a crew of 7. We only had one pilot, a navigator, and bomb aimer, and 2 gunners, a mid-upper gunner, you can't see the turret here on this one, and one at the back end, and a wireless operator who sat underneath the pilot. So there's a group of 4 people up front. The engineer in ours stood up behind the pilot with his own instrument panel and an astrodome above his head, which I would use if I had to take some star shots at the time.
Wireless for Americans means radio.
Radio man. To give you an idea of the size, I'm 5'6" and I could stand up inside the Perspex nose here. You may see some of the older aircraft, we had a turret on the front, but they took them out, because at night time, you're not going to see anybody doing a head-on attack, because you can't see them anyway.
Now, this is something you should know. I'll keep interrupting because he is Scottish, and, you know.
Yeah.
I'll be like an interpreter. The RAF operated at night, meaning they had to go over there in the dark. The United States Air Force, Army Air Forces operated during the day. So we had daylight precision bombing, we had nighttime bombing. So the enemy was being bombed both day and night, and that was the object of the war aims of the Air Command in both American and British during World War II.
The main entrance hatch for the aircraft, you got in through a door at the back end here, and we had an emergency hatch underneath the navigator's seat at the front. We also had 2 hatches on the top, so if you ditched the aircraft in the water, you could get out of the top, and we had a dinghy in the wing, you could get into that. If you bailed out of an aeroplane, you become a member of the Caterpillar Club, and there's quite a few famous ones around. The most famous one, of course, is President Bush, as he was shot down in the Pacific. Jimmy Doolittle bailed out 3 times, and the chap Lindbergh, he bailed out 5 times. You can only get a Caterpillar badge, which is one of these little things I have here, if you bail out to save your life. You can't do it just as being a paratrooper or skydiving or any of that nature. The aim is that if you take off on a mission and expect to land back, that's fine. If you don't make it back, then you jump out, and that's why you become a Caterpillar member. That's really about it, the way the aircraft is laid out. We carry rather a big bomb load compared to the B-17, 4 times the size load. We carried 16,000 pounds of bombs. The Lancaster, which is the top one, the biggest bomber up in that poster you have there, it could carry up to 21,000 pounds. That was quite a load. It also carried the famous bomb raid, the bomb bouncing ball, which they used to blow up the Mononeder dams in Germany. That was a raid that was done in 1942, around about May or June, I can't remember exactly.
What was the name of the movie?
The movie is called The Dam Busters. It's a very, very good film, and very, very accurate on the way they dropped the bombs. It was kind of a critical approach. The bomb sight was very simple. It consisted of a Y-shaped piece of wood, 2 pegs at the end, and a peg at the back. And the bomb aimer held it in his hand. And when the 2 pegs lined up with the towers on the either end of the dam, he was at exactly the right spot. He calculated it out mathematically to drop the bomb. All the pilot had to do was fly the thing at 50 feet at exactly 180 miles an hour. That's quite a feat, because in those days we didn't have altimeters that would work down to that accuracy. So what they did, they fitted 2 spotlights, one in each wing, and of course this was done at night, so they would shine on the water, and when the 2 circles coincided, they were exactly 50 feet. So the engineer was yelling up a bit, down a bit as they went in till they got it right. Then it was up to the bomb aimer then when the 2 things lined up. The pilot just kept the airspeed exactly at that. Now at 50 feet and you've got a wingspan of about 110, you bank over, you're going to hit the water. And 2 or 3 of them did. So the chop rate on that raid was rather high. They lost about 7 aircraft out of the 21 that were sent out. So that's something else that we can get into later on. But coming back to my aeroplane, it's similar in conflict. It was built to the same specifications as the Lancaster. It didn't do quite as much in the way of heavier loads. The Lanc did carry more than we did. But it was very, very useful in the sense that we could use it for dropping supplies to the French underground, dropping secret agents, the OSS and the British spy system. They would be used for that. We'd use it for mine laying quite a bit, as they were done at, it's called gardening experts. We had code names for everything. And we would drop the mines on parachutes and they would plunk into the water. And we'd take a photograph of the H2S screen so we knew exactly where those mines were.
this was rather critical after the war was over, because we had to fish out the ones that hadn't gone off. So the Halifax was used in quite a number of roles and served overseas a lot. The Lancaster never did. We also used it for meteorological flights over the Atlantic, and that would be a case of flying out of Ireland. You'd fly down into the Atlantic Ocean area, and you go down to 100 feet, then up to 20,000 feet, taking readings all the time, going up and down. It was kind of a hairy mission in those days, because a buddy of mine was on that particular type of work, and he came back with a block of ice that thick in the nose of the aircraft because of the temperature changes we were working on. And of course, 100 feet over the water at night is all well and good, but the Atlantic in the winter time, you can get waves 100 feet high, and you could be in a trough. And that's where the hazardous flight came in, because you were flying into weather you didn't know exactly where the damn water was, because of the lack of good altimeters in those days. It was kind of a dodgy operation to begin with. Anyway, I'll get back to all of that later at the question time, but I think that's enough to keep the clock going.